There's something important about Dandadan that you probably missed. Everyone on Twitter says you should read Dandadan for the crazy story, the gorgeous art style, and the great characters. Which is all true, but there's something deeper than that. The secret behind Dandadan's success is the way it manages to make its story feel normal. See, there's no hiding that part of why everyone loves Dandadan is because of how insane it is. From videos like "The Manga for Crazy People," or "The Strangest Manga," or "This Manga is Nuts." Okay, nobody actually made that video, I just really wanted to make that joke. This manga really is nuts though, and as you've probably noticed by now, it's because it takes place in a world filled with ghosts, cryptids, and aliens. And it really doesn't stop there. The ghosts aren't just ghosts. They might be thirsty grandmas. The aliens aren't just aliens. Sometimes they look like Godzilla, and sometimes they look like cute little shrimp babies that you literally want to adopt because, oh my god, would you just look at them. So on top of the insane premise, Dandadan gets even crazier because of the bizarre ways that the insanity is presented. But that's a problem, because Dandadan shouldn't make sense. And I don't mean scientific sense, I mean, it's a miracle that anyone can actually follow the plot. In fact, Dandadan doesn't really have a plot early on. Like, yeah, there is the broader plot of trying to find the balls, which totally doesn't sound weird when you say it out loud, at all. But besides that, there isn't really a plot. First they fight the Turbo Granny, which makes sense because it's set up in Chapter 1. Then they fight Acrobatic Silky to get one of the balls. Then they have to fight a bunch of aliens and their pet Loch Ness monster when they attack the school. Then they have to help Momo's friend Gigi fight this cult-like family that serves a giant worm monster. And oh yeah, Momo's friend gets possessed. It's just like, hey, let's go fight this monster, and hey, look at this guy. Or let's go to this place, it's got these wacky characters. While this is happening, it's pretty easy to forget that they're even looking for the other ball. So when you have all these bizarre creatures and characters and the plot doesn't have a lot of direction early in the story, you may very well get to a point where you're like, dude, what is going on in this story, and what is even the point? And I'm sure you've had it happen in other stories to some extent. For example, Attack on Titan can be pretty hard to follow, with its especially crazy plot and long list of characters. There's also stories like Eden Zero with time travel, which of course always makes sense and never makes the story complicated. But Dandadan, AOT, and Eden Zero are all popular stories that tons of people are still following. If anything, people brag about these stories because of their crazy plots. So when they have these seemingly incoherent plots, how are people still able to follow these kinds of stories? The answer is actually stupidly simple. It's the characters. People will tell you how much they love the characters in Dandadan, but very rarely will people go in depth on how heavily character-driven the story is and why that's so important. Because it's one thing to make your story character-driven. A lot of people like that kind of story. But it's a bit trickier to do that when you have shrimp monsters and psychic grandmas and mean girls that think they have the power of Christ. It's the same kind of problem you often see in fighting games. Fighting games are of course known for having lots of different characters, and they're also notorious for having plots that make literally no sense. But the way they make their stories at least somewhat coherent is by making connections between the characters. In Tekken, the story is about Heihachi, Kazuya, and Jin, a grandfather, a father, and a son. In Guilty Gear, which is an even crazier story, a lot of the characters are related and there's also a bunch of factions. So some of the characters belong to the Assassin's Guild, and some of the characters belong to the Holy Order. Doing this establishes the world building through the characters, but it also gives the audience context so they can always remember who the characters are. And this is exactly what Dandadan does. But before I explain how it does that, make sure to like the video if you've been enjoying it so far. It's the easiest way to support the channel, and it helps spread the video to other viewers like you. Now, you can tell that Dandadan is going to be a character-driven story right away. Chapter 1 doesn't start with a big battle between ghosts and aliens. It starts with Momo. Momo is talking about her dream man, and then she meets Okarun. They develop this funny dynamic where they tease each other because one believes in aliens and the other believes in ghosts. They save each other when they're attacked by aliens and ghosts, and then the chapter ends with them acting like pretty good friends. In fact, you even get the potential for some romantic chemistry. This is extended in Chapter 2, when Okarun is feeling insecure about the friendship, but Momo tells him that they can just talk about aliens and ghosts like they've already been doing. Then when a new character is introduced, it's not just some random badass lady who can fight spirits. It's Momo's grandma who raised her, took care of her, and taught her how to use her psychic powers. So when you meet Momo's grandma, there's already this funny dynamic where they're like family and roommates at the same time, and they're like the same person just from different generations. So then Okarun and Momo fight the Turbo Granny and defeat her, but what happens next isn't like, oh, now they have to fight a super ghost or now they have to go to space. No, the next thing the story focuses on is the two characters going to school and realizing how much they want to talk to each other. And it focuses on this point for at least a couple of chapters before it moves on to the next crazy thing in the plot. Then, in the next arc, when we meet Ira and the acrobatic Silky, you come to find out that they just so happen to be related, which leads to one of the most emotional and vulnerable chapters in the entire story. And then, of course, when another new character is added to the cast, that being our boy Gigi, he just so happens to be Momo's childhood crush and Okarun's new romantic rival. So as you can see, Dandadan starts with its characters and builds from their dynamics. Each chapter has some kind of bizarre creature or crazy twist, but all of that craziness centers around the characters and their chemistry. You have all this insane, seemingly random stuff going on, but it always remains coherent because it supplements the character-driven story. The Turbo Granny stuff supplements the new friendship between Momo and Okarun. The acrobatic Silky is a means of introducing Ira and giving us a personal investment in her character. The Evil Eye and the Death Worm are peripheral to the rivalry between Okarun and Gigi, and the growing relationship between the series' two main characters. And an added bonus to this character chemistry is that it doesn't just make the story coherent. Like I said in the beginning, these characters make Dandadan feel normal. Not normal like a 9-to-5 office job and having a chicken salad sandwich for lunch. Normal as in familiar. Like, these are characters and dynamics that we've seen before in our own lives. One thing that I love in Dandadan that is also a very underrated element is the chibi faces and all the cartoonish expressions of the characters. See, there's a theory in art, especially in comics, that the simpler you design a character, the easier it is for someone to relate to them. So while Dandadan is full of insane art and really detailed spreads, the real strong point of the art style is how simple it can be, because these characters go through a lot of cartoonish expressions and make a lot of emoji faces. And every time they do, you can't help but laugh because you know exactly how they feel. Like when Okarun laughs at Momo for believing in ghosts, he makes this goblin face. Naturally, Momo reacts in a way that basically says, dude, I just heard you talk about Obama going to Mars, but you're calling me crazy? But beyond the funny faces, it's also just the way the characters interact. Like in the same scene, Momo and Okarun start teasing each other, and you feel like you're watching two buddies bust each other's chops. When Momo and her grandmother fight over dinner and threaten to burn each other's DVDs, it feels like a real family bickering and having fun at the dinner table. When Ira and Momo bully each other, it reminds me of every time I've seen two girls call each other absolutely horrible names, and somehow they're also best friends. Of course, this isn't exclusive to the human characters. This also includes the aliens and the spirits. Like for example, there's the Shrimp Man, Mr. Shrimp, and it turns out he's just a papa trying to take care of his little shrimp baby. So, as you can see, Dandadan is built on its characters. It starts with its characters, the characters drive the story, and they give direction to the random chaos of the plot. But more importantly, they make an otherwise insane fever dream feel like a perfectly normal story. There's monsters and ghosts and aliens, but at the end of the day, it's a story about two best friends, their crackhead family, and whatever they have to do to protect each other and make it back home. That is why the characters are so important, and it's exactly why everyone loves Dandadan. But what do you like about Dandadan? What do you think makes Dandadan so special? Share your thoughts and see what everyone else has to say down in the comments. I'll pick my favorite and share it as comment of the week on the community tab. And if you'd like another discussion like this one, then make sure to check out my recent Akane Banashi video I did with Masked Man. In that video, we discuss why you'll want to binge the entire manga as soon as you read the first chapter. You can find it in the playlist linked right here. Until then, thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon.